Emma, what did you leave me? Leia's whispered words echoed through Enzo's penthouse as her fingers traced the edges of the small brass key taped beneath the kitchen sink. The metal felt cold against her palm, but it was the dark stain coating its surface that made her stomach lurch. Blood. Still tacky after 6 months. The key fit perfectly into the lock of a safe deposit box she'd never known existed. Inside, a single flash drive waited alongside a handwritten note in Emma's familiar scrawl. If you're reading this, Vincent Hayes killed me. Our grandfather isn't dead. Leia's hands trembled as she inserted the drive into her laptop. Emma's face appeared on screen, pale and haunted, sitting in what looked like their childhood bedroom. Leia, if you're watching this, then I'm dead, and Vincent finally made his move. Our grandfather didn't die when we were kids. He faked his death to avoid federal trafficking charges. Hayes Maritime never went bankrupt. He's been running a global trafficking empire from the shadows, using our family name as cover. The security alarms shrieked through the penthouse, their piercing wail drowning out Emma's recorded voice. Red lights flashed across marble surfaces as bulletproof glass barriers slammed down over the windows. Boss! Marcus burst through the reinforced door, blood streaming from a gash above his left eye. His usually immaculate suit was torn, and he clutched a smoking pistol in his right hand. Vincent Hayes has been my real boss for 3 years. I'm sorry. I tried to protect you both, but he knew about Emma's investigation. The lights flickered and died. Emergency power kicked in, casting everything in an eerie red glow. Then Vincent's voice filled the penthouse through hidden speakers, smooth as aged whiskey and twice as deadly. Hello, granddaughter. Did you miss me? Every screen in the penthouse, televisions, tablets, security monitors, flickered to life simultaneously. Vincent Hayes sat in a high-backed leather chair, his silver hair perfectly styled despite his supposed death 20 years ago. Behind him, Leia recognized Emma's bedroom from their childhood home, down to the faded Disney princess wallpaper. You've grown into quite the fighter, Vincent continued, his pale blue eyes fixed directly on the camera. That viral kiss with young Rossi was impressive. Though I must admit, orchestrating that meeting took months of careful planning. You're lying. But even as Leia spoke, pieces clicked into place. The corrupt cop Jax appearing exactly when she needed an escape. Enzo being at that specific club at that exact moment. The viral video spreading with impossible speed. I orchestrated everything, my dear. Jax's corruption, your sister's death, even your romantic entanglement with the Rossi heir. Hayes Maritime never collapsed. We simply went underground. Shipping containers are remarkably useful for transporting more than just legal cargo. Marcus stepped closer, his weapon now trained on the screens. Boss, he's got 30 armed mercenaries in the building. They breached through the service tunnels. Vincent's laugh was warm, grandfatherly, and absolutely chilling. Marcus has been quite helpful over the years, though I suspect his loyalties have been conflicted since he developed feelings for you. I never wanted this, Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper. He threatened to kill my sister in Detroit if I didn't comply. But when Emma started digging into the maritime records, when she found the trafficking manifests, Emma was always too curious for her own good, Vincent interrupted. She discovered our family's true business and demanded I release all the victims from our current shipments. 300 souls, worth approximately $50 million in various markets. I couldn't allow such sentimentality to interfere with centuries of family tradition. The penthouse shook as explosions echoed from somewhere below. Dust rained from the ceiling, and one of the abstract paintings crashed to the floor. She died protecting my great-grandchild, Vincent continued, holding up a sonogram image. Did you know Emma was pregnant, Leia? The father was one of my business associates. She refused to terminate the pregnancy, refused to sign over her inheritance rights, refused to join the family business. Such a waste. I should have thrown that key in the fire, but I didn't. And before I tell you why that choice awakened a monster who'd been watching me my entire life, subscribe to Mystic Tale by Luna, because some family secrets kill. Enzo appeared in the doorway, his dark suit torn and his face grim. Blood spattered his white shirt, but his grip on his weapon remained steady. Vincent Hayes. I should have recognized the pattern sooner. Young Rossi. Your father worked for me before you were born. Remarkable man, though ultimately too honest for our line of work. I trust you've been taking good care of my granddaughter? She's not your anything, Enzo snarled, moving to shield Leia with his body. Everything she is, everything she's become, is because of me. I've been watching, guiding, molding both girls since their parents' unfortunate accident. Did you think it was coincidence that their car went off that bridge? They discovered photographs of our cargo, not the legal kind. Another explosion, closer this time. The penthouse's reinforced structure groaned under the assault. Marcus grabbed Leia's arm, pulling her toward the emergency stairwell. We need to move. Now. But Vincent's image appeared on every screen in their path. I'm afraid I can't allow that. You see, the penthouse is rigged with enough explosives to level this entire floor. You have 60 seconds to make a choice. Grab Emma's evidence and abandon your lover, or save Rossi and let the truth die with you. Leia stared at the laptop containing Emma's confession, then at Enzo's determined face. The countdown timer appeared on every screen. 59, 58, 57. I won't choose, she said, snatching both the laptop and Emma's flash drive. Marcus, where's your emergency extraction plan? Service elevator to the parking garage. But Vincent's men will have to catch us first. She grabbed Enzo's hand, pulling him toward Marcus. Move. They raced through smoke-filled corridors as the building shook around them. Behind them, Vincent's laughter echoed through the speakers. Run, granddaughter. But you can't escape family forever. The service elevator plummeted toward the parking garage as explosions bloomed above them. When the doors opened, Sarah Chin stood waiting with a full FBI tactical team, their weapons trained on the elevator. Leia Hayes, Sarah said, her voice cold and professional. You're coming with us. But instead of arresting her, Sarah snapped handcuffs around Enzo's wrists. Vincent Hayes wants to make a trade. On the garage's security monitor, live feed from Hayes Maritime headquarters showed 30 people chained inside shipping containers. Vincent stood among them, a rifle in his hands. He pressed the barrel against a young woman's temple. 29 left, granddaughter. Tick-tock. The woman's scream echoed through the garage's speakers as Vincent pulled the trigger. 28 victims remain. Vincent's voice crackled through the garage speakers as the woman's body crumpled to the concrete floor of the shipping container. Each one represents approximately $2 million in lost revenue, granddaughter. I trust we can reach an understanding. Sarah Chen's FBI tactical team maintained their positions, weapons trained on the elevator. But her eyes held something Leia couldn't identify, desperation masked as professional duty. The trade is simple, Vincent continued from the monitor. Leia Hayes signs over complete ownership of Hayes Maritime Holdings, including all international shipping routes and subsidiary companies. In exchange, I release the remaining 28 trafficking victims unharmed. He's lying, Enzo said through gritted teeth, testing the handcuffs Sarah had snapped around his wrists. Vincent Hayes doesn't release witnesses. Ever. Marcus stepped forward, blood still seeping from his head wound. Agent Chen, with all due respect, you don't understand what you're dealing with. Vincent has been operating for decades. These victims will die anyway if we don't cooperate. Sarah's weapon never wavered from its target. Vincent Hayes has evaded federal prosecution for trafficking, murder, and conspiracy for 20 years. This is our chance to end it. By sacrificing Leia? Enzo's voice carried lethal quiet. By handing him exactly what he wants. On the monitor, Vincent walked between the shipping containers with practiced ease. His expensive suit remained immaculate despite the industrial setting. Agent Chen, perhaps you could explain to my granddaughter why you've been investigating the Hayes family for the past 2 years? Sarah's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Vincent Hayes killed your parents, Leia. They discovered photographs of trafficking victims in his private study. When they threatened to contact authorities, he arranged their car accident. The garage fell silent except for the distant sound of sirens and the hum of fluorescent lights. Leia felt the world tilt sideways as another piece of her childhood shattered. Mom and Dad were murdered, she whispered. They didn't die in an accident. Your parents were investigating discrepancies in the maritime shipping manifests, Sarah continued. They found evidence of human cargo being transported through Hayes maritime routes. Children mostly. Destined for private buyers across Europe and Asia. Vincent's laughter echoed through the speakers. Such moral outrage from people who never understood the realities of international commerce. Your parents lacked vision, granddaughter. They saw victims where I saw opportunities. You sick bastard. Leia lunged toward the monitor, but Marcus caught her arm.
Easy.
That's what he wants, emotional reactions, poor decisions. On screen, Vincent approached another container. This one held teenage girls, their faces gaunt with terror and malnutrition. I'm afraid we're operating under time constraints. Agent Chin, if an agreement isn't reached within the next 10 minutes, I'll be forced to demonstrate the consequences of failed negotiation. He pressed his rifle against a girl who couldn't have been older than 16. Her dark eyes met the camera with startling defiance. Don't you dare, Leia snarled. Then sign the documents Agent Chen has prepared. Transfer your inheritance, and these unfortunate souls go free. Sarah reached into her tactical vest, producing a tablet with legal documents already loaded. The paperwork is legitimate. Full ownership transfer of Hayes Maritime Holdings to Vincent Hayes, effective immediately. Absolutely not. Enzo strained against his restraints. Leia, the moment you sign that, you become a liability he can't afford to keep alive. If I don't sign, he murders 28 innocent people. He's going to murder them anyway, Marcus said quietly. Boss, Vincent doesn't leave witnesses. Ever. Those victims have seen his face, heard his voice. They know too much. Vincent's image shifted to a closer angle, revealing the cold calculation behind his grandfatherly facade. Marcus raises an interesting point, though I suppose there are always alternative solutions to witness management. The rifle's muzzle moved away from the teenager's head. Instead, Vincent produced a small device from his jacket pocket. Concentrated fentanyl gas. Completely painless. They'll simply go to sleep. You're insane, Sarah breathed. I'm practical. Dead trafficking victims can't testify against family members. A new sound echoed through the garage, helicopter rotors approaching fast. Sarah's eyes widened as she spoke into her radio. Command, we have unauthorized aircraft inbound. Repeat, unauthorized. The parking garage's security gate exploded inward. 3 black SUVs roared through the opening, tires screaming against concrete as they formed a defensive perimeter around the FBI team. Vincent's cleanup crew, Marcus said grimly. We need to move.
Now.
But Sarah was already backing toward the emergency stairwell, her weapons still trained on them. Nobody moves until I get confirmation from my team leader. Your team leader works for Vincent, Enzo said. Has been for years. Why do you think the FBI investigation has produced nothing but dead ends? That's impossible. Agent Morrison has been. The helicopter touched down in the center of the garage. Its side door slid open, revealing 3 figures in tactical gear. But the woman who jumped out wasn't wearing FBI colors. She wore Vincent's 3-rose family crest on her shoulder patch. Sarah, the woman called out, removing her helmet to reveal striking features and salt and pepper hair. Time to go. Vincent's getting impatient. Sarah's professional mask slipped for the first time. Mom, the woman, Vincent's actual field operative, smiled with cold pride. Did you really think the FBI assigned you to investigate your own father by coincidence, sweetheart? Leia felt reality fracture around her. Sarah, your family? Vincent's daughter, the woman confirmed. Agent Morrison, FBI Human Trafficking Division. Also Vincent Hayes's inside source for the past 15 years. Sarah's weapon trembled in her grip. That's not you said he was dead. You told me he died when I was 8. I told you what you needed to hear to become useful, Agent Morrison replied. Vincent required someone inside federal law enforcement. Someone with legitimate credentials and unquestioned loyalty. Loyalty. Sarah's voice cracked. I've been trying to arrest him for 2 years. You've been providing him with complete intelligence on federal investigations. Every FBI raid he's avoided, every witness protection location he's compromised, every trafficking route he's relocated. All thanks to your detailed reports. Marcus grabbed Leia's hand, pulling her toward the emergency exit.
Move.
This family reunion is about to turn bloody. But Agent Morrison was already signaling her team. Smoke grenades detonated throughout the garage, thick gray clouds billowing between the concrete pillars. Sarah, grab the girl, Morrison commanded. Vincent wants his granddaughter delivered alive. Through the chaos, Leia heard Enzo's handcuffs break with metallic snap. His combat training took over as he disarmed the nearest tactical officer, rolling behind a concrete pillar as automatic weapons fire erupted. This way. Marcus led them toward a maintenance ladder built into the garage's exterior wall. Roof access. They climbed through choking smoke as bullets sparked off metal railings around them. Below, Sarah's voice cut through the gunfire. Mom, wait. What about my children? You promised Tommy and Lisa would be safe. Their insurance, sweetheart. As long as you remain cooperative, they remain unharmed. The garage roof offered no sanctuary. Vincent's helicopter hovered overhead, its searchlight pinning them against the gravel surface. But beyond it, Manhattan's skyline stretched in all directions, a maze of fire escapes, building tops, and potential escape routes. Can you make that jump? Enzo pointed to the adjacent building's roof, approximately 8 feet away across a 4-story drop. Do I have a choice? Marcus pulled a grappling hook from his tactical vest. Vincent's men will have the stairwells covered in 30 seconds. It's this or surrender. The hook caught on the opposite building's ventilation system. Leia wrapped the rope around her waist, took 3 running steps, and leaped into empty air. Wind whipped her hair as she swung across the gap, her feet slamming into the adjacent building's brick facade. Pain shot through her ankles, but she hauled herself onto the roof as Enzo and Marcus followed. Behind them, Vincent's helicopter pivoted to maintain pursuit. But this roof connected to another, and that one to a fire escape leading down into the maze of lower Manhattan's side streets. Where are we going? Leia called over her shoulder as they ran. Safe house in Queens, Marcus replied. Off Vincent's radar. I hope. They descended through narrow alleys and crowded sidewalks, blending with late-night pedestrians and delivery trucks. But Leia couldn't shake the feeling of eyes watching from every shadow, cameras tracking their movement, Vincent's network closing around them like a web. 2 blocks from the subway station, Marcus's phone buzzed with an encrypted message. His face went pale as he read the screen. What is it? Enzo demanded. Sarah Chinja sent this. Marcus held up the phone, showing a video attachment. She says it's the truth about Emma's death. The video opened on Sarah sitting in what looked like a FBI interview room. But her badge was gone, and her hands were shaking. My name is Sarah Chin. Vincent Hayes is my father. For the past 2 years, I've been operating under FBI credentials he arranged through corrupted officials. Everything I told you about investigating him was a lie. On screen, Sarah's voice grew steadier as she continued her confession. Emma Hayes contacted me 6 months ago. She'd found maritime shipping records proving Vincent was transporting trafficking victims through family-owned routes. But she also discovered something else. Vincent has been grooming potential successors throughout our extended family bloodline. Leia grabbed Marcus's phone, staring at her aunt's face. She's family. Emma's aunt. My aunt. Vincent threatened my children, Tommy and Lisa, ages 6 and 9, if I didn't manipulate the federal investigation away from his trafficking operations. But Emma offered me a way out. She said if we worked together, we could expose Vincent and save both our families. The video cut to Emma sitting beside Sarah in the same room. Leia's breath caught at seeing her sister alive again, even in recorded footage. Sarah's been feeding Vincent information about FBI raids and witness locations, Emma said directly to the camera. But she's also been documenting everything: names, dates, trafficking routes, victim counts. We have evidence of 312 people transported through Hayes Maritime in the past year alone. Vincent discovered our collaboration. Sarah's voice continued over images of shipping manifests covered in Emma's handwriting. When Emma refused to terminate her pregnancy and sign over her inheritance rights, he arranged her death to look like suicide. But Emma suspected he would try to kill her. She prepared this confession as insurance. The video ended with both women looking directly into the camera. Emma spoke first. "If something happens to us, the evidence is hidden in 3 locations. Vincent will come for Leia next. Then Sarah, I'm sorry for everything I put your family through." But Vincent's network reaches into federal law enforcement, international shipping, and private military contractors. He's not just one man. He's the head of a trafficking empire that spans continents. Marcus pocketed his phone as they descended into the subway station. That video was sent from FBI headquarters 20 minutes ago. Either Sarah escaped Vincent's people, or this is another trap. "Does it matter?" Leia asked. "Emma's dead. My parents are dead. Vincent has 28 victims who'll die whether I cooperate or not." "It matters," Enzo said quietly, "because now we know Vincent's weakness. Which is family. He keeps his daughter close because he needs her FBI access. But he also threatened her children to ensure compliance. That's leverage we can use." Above them, a helicopter's rotors thundered through the night sky, searchlights sweeping the streets they'd just abandoned. "This place looks like it hasn't been touched in decades." Marcus's Queen's safe house occupied the second floor of a narrow brick building wedged between a laundromat and a corner bodega. Dust motes danced in the pale morning light filtering through grimy windows, and the floorboards creaked with every step. "Vincent doesn't know about it," Marcus said, checking the locks on reinforced steel doors. "Belonged to my grandfather before he died. Off all official records." Leia moved through rooms filled with mismatched furniture and outdated electronics, her mind still reeling from Sarah's confession video. The revelation that Emma had an aunt, that their family extended beyond the 2 sisters Vincent had isolated and manipulated, felt like discovering oxygen after suffocating. "There's something else," Marcus said, pulling a cardboard box from beneath a loose floorboard. "Emma asked me to keep this safe. Said if anything happened to her, you'd need to see what's inside." The box contained dozens of photographs spanning decades. Images of Vincent with various children, always smiling, always perfectly groomed, always positioning himself as the benevolent patriarch. But Leia's blood chilled as she recognized younger versions of herself and Emma among the faces. "I don't remember this," she whispered, holding up a photo of herself at maybe 7 years old, sitting on Vincent's lap in what looked like his private study. Behind them, shipping charts covered the walls, and she was pointing at different ports with obvious excitement. "Vincent conditioned you both to forget," Enzo said, studying another photograph. "Same technique used on child trafficking victims. Create positive associations with the captor, then manipulate memory through trauma and isolation." More photos revealed the scope of Vincent's psychological manipulation. Emma at age 8, wearing a junior ship captain's hat Vincent had given her. Leia at 10, proudly holding a Hayes Maritime certificate declaring her future company president. Both girls writing letters addressed to Grandpa V in careful childish script. "Dear Grandpa V," Leia read from one of her own letters, dated 3 months before their parents' death. "Thank you for the maritime books. I want to work on your ships when I grow up and help people travel safely. Love, Leia." "You are already being groomed as his successor," Marcus observed. Emma too. Vincent needed heirs who would willingly continue the family business, including the trafficking. Leia's voice cracked with the weight of realization. "He wanted us to become monsters like him." "But you didn't," Enzo said firmly. "Emma chose to expose him rather than join him. You chose to fight rather than submit. That's why he's so desperate to control you now." The safe house's landline telephone rang with jarring suddenness. Marcus answered cautiously, then handed the receiver to Leia. "It's Sarah." "I escaped Vincent's people." Sarah's voice sounded hollow, defeated. "But I need you to understand something about Emma's death. About why she really contacted me." "Tell me." Vincent didn't just kill Emma because she threatened to expose his trafficking operation. She discovered he's been systematically eliminating family members who oppose him for generations. Our great-grandfather, 2 uncles, multiple cousins, anyone who showed moral objections to the family business disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Leia sank into a threadbare armchair, the weight of generational trauma settling on her shoulders. How many? 17 confirmed deaths over the past 50 years. All made to look like accidents or suicides. Emma found documentation in Vincent's private files. She was planning to present everything at a family reunion, gather all surviving relatives, and expose Vincent's crimes simultaneously. What happened to the reunion? Vincent killed her the night before it was scheduled. Then, he contacted each family member individually, told them Emma had committed suicide, and canceled the gathering. No one ever learned about the others. Through the window, Leia watched ordinary people going about their ordinary lives, buying groceries, walking dogs, complaining about subway delays. Their problems seemed impossibly small compared to the legacy of blood she'd inherited. Sarah, whose side are you really on? Yours. But Vincent conditioned me from childhood to believe family loyalty meant absolute obedience. Even when I joined the FBI, even when I started investigating trafficking cases, I kept feeding him information because he convinced me it was protecting our bloodline from external threats. And your children? Are safe. I moved them to a secure location before contacting you. Vincent thinks they're still under his control, but I've been planning this break for months. Enzo took the phone. Agent Chun, we need Vincent's current location and security details. Full tactical assessment. Hayes Maritime Headquarters on Pier 47. He's got approximately 30 mercenaries, plus whatever trafficking victims he's using as human shields. But there's something else. Vincent's planning to execute all the witnesses tonight and burn the evidence. You have maybe 6 hours before he disappears completely. Marcus spread building blueprints across a folding table. I've got the maritime facility layout memorized. 3 main entrances, plus service tunnels connecting to the old subway system. Vincent will expect us to use the tunnels. So we don't, Leia said, studying the diagrams. What if we come from the water, approach by boat, and scale the pier infrastructure? Vincent owns the harbor patrol, Marcus replied, plus half the Coast Guard. Water approach is suicide. Then we make him come to us. Enzo traced possible escape routes with his finger. Force Vincent to leave his stronghold and meet us on neutral ground.
How?
By threatening something he values more than his own life. Sarah's voice crackled through the phone's speaker. His reputation. Vincent's built his entire empire on the perception of untouchable power. If that reputation crumbles publicly, his business partners will abandon him and his enemies will move against him. Leia felt a plan crystallizing in her mind. The trafficking evidence Emma gathered. If we broadcast it live, if we make Vincent's crimes undeniable to the entire world, he'll have to silence us personally, Enzo finished. Can't trust that level of damage control to subordinates. Marcus pulled weapons from a hidden arsenal behind a false wall. Vincent trained me in advanced combat techniques for 12 years. I can teach you his preferred fighting style, his psychological tactics, his physical weaknesses. For the next 4 hours, the safe house became a training ground. Marcus showed Leia how Vincent used intimidation and family guilt as weapons, how he positioned himself to exploit emotional vulnerabilities, how his apparent grandfatherly frailty masked deadly combat skills. He'll try to make you doubt your own memories, Marcus explained as she practiced defensive stances. Vincent excels at gaslighting, making victims question their own perceptions of reality. I lived through his manipulation once. I won't fall for it again. Different situation now. He's desperate, which makes him more dangerous, but also more prone to mistakes. Enzo worked with her on weapon handling and tactical positioning. Vincent's mercenaries are professionals, but they're motivated by money, not loyalty. If we can isolate Vincent from his hired protection, they'll likely withdraw rather than fight to the death. And if they don't, then we make sure Vincent goes down first. Cut off the head, and the body dies. As afternoon shadows lengthened across the safe house, Sarah called again. I've got Emma's complete case file. Everything she compiled before Vincent killed her. But there's something else. Something she discovered about your parents' death.
What?
They didn't die because they found trafficking evidence. They died because they were planning to legally challenge Vincent's ownership of Hayes Maritime. Your parents had discovered documentation proving Vincent murdered his own father to inherit the company illegally. The room fell silent except for the distant hum of traffic and the safe house's ancient heating system. Leia felt the last pieces of her childhood innocence crumble into dust. 3 generations of murder, she whispered. How many more would there have been? As many as necessary to maintain control, Sarah replied. But Emma left you something else. A way to end this permanently. Marcus opened a sealed envelope Emma had entrusted to him months earlier. Inside, a simple engagement ring set with 3 small diamonds, along with a handwritten note. For your wedding day. Don't trust blood, trust your heart. He's coming for you both. The ring has a GPS tracker Vincent doesn't know about. When you're ready to face him, put it on. Love always, Emma. Leia slipped the ring onto her finger, feeling Emma's presence like a protective embrace. She knew this moment would come. She prepared for it. Your sister understood Vincent better than anyone, Enzo said. She knew he'd eventually target you, and she made sure you'd have the tools to fight back. My hands were shaking as I held Emma's ring. Have you ever felt that moment when you realize everything you thought was love was actually control? Tell me in the comments, because what happened next will test every belief about family. The ring's GPS tracker activated automatically, sending their location to an encrypted server Emma had established. Within minutes, Leia's phone buzzed with an incoming call from an unknown number. Hello, granddaughter. Vincent's voice carried the same warm tone from her childhood memories, but now she heard the poison beneath the honey. I see you've found Emma's little insurance policy. I found the truth about what you are. I'm your family, your blood. The man who raised you after your parents died in their tragic accident. The man who murdered them. Who murdered Emma. Who's been planning to murder me since I was born. Vincent's laughter was soft, almost affectionate. Such harsh words. But you're learning, which makes me proud. Perhaps you're finally ready to understand what it means to be a Hayes. I'll never be like you. No? Then prove it. Meet me at the Hayes Maritime headquarters tonight. Come alone, and I'll release the trafficking victims unharmed. Bring your mafia boyfriend or that treacherous daughter of mine, and I'll execute everyone in the building, including yourself, if necessary. The Hayes legacy is worth more than any single life. The call ended, leaving them in tense silence. Outside, evening shadows crept across Queens, and somewhere across the river, Vincent waited in his fortress of stolen ships and broken lives. He's counting on our emotional attachment, Marcus said, banking on the assumption that we won't risk innocent lives. Then we don't risk them, Leia replied, checking the ammunition in her pistol. We end this tonight. 27 victims remain alive, granddaughter. I hope you appreciate the restraint I've shown. Vincent's voice echoed across the empty waters of the Hudson River as Leia, Enzo, Marcus, and Sarah approached Hayes Maritime headquarters in a stolen Coast Guard patrol boat. The pier complex loomed against the night sky like a fortress of rusted steel and broken dreams. I can see thermal signatures through the warehouse windows, Marcus reported, studying his tactical scope. Vincent's got snipers positioned on the roof, plus at least 20 mercenaries inside the main building. What about the victims? Sarah asked, her hands steady on the boat's controls despite the tremor in her voice. Cargo hold, eastern section. They're separated into 3 shipping containers, approximately 9 people each. Vincent's helicopter circled the facility like a mechanical vulture, its searchlight sweeping across the dark waters. But Leia had learned his patterns during their surveillance, 15-second intervals between passes, creating brief windows of invisibility. There, Enzo pointed to a maintenance ladder built into the pier's concrete foundation. We climbed during the next searchlight rotation. They synchronized their movements with predatory precision. When the helicopter's beam moved away, 4 figures slipped over the patrol boat's side and into the freezing harbor water. The ladder's metal rungs were slick with decades of industrial grime, but they climbed in silence. Vincent's voice boomed through speakers mounted across the pier complex. "I know you're here, Leia. I can feel your presence the same way I felt Emma's before she died." Blood calls to blood. The warehouse floor stretched before them like an arena designed for final confrontations. Shipping containers stacked in precise rows, their surfaces marked with haze maritime logos that now seemed like brands of ownership on stolen lives. Emergency lighting cast everything in harsh red shadows. "Split up," Marcus whispered. "Create multiple targets." Vincent's ego won't let him delegate killing Leia to subordinates. Sarah disappeared into the maze of containers, her FBI training evident in the way she moved through shadows. Enzo headed toward the eastern section where the victims were held, while Marcus circled north to eliminate perimeter guards. Leia walked directly down the central corridor, making no attempt at stealth. Her footsteps echoed off concrete and steel, announcing her presence to every mercenary in the building. "I'm here, Vincent," she called out. Face to face, like family. A slow clap echoed from the facility's upper level. Vincent emerged from his office, descending a spiral staircase with theatrical deliberation. He wore an expensive charcoal suit that made him look like a distinguished businessman rather than a trafficking kingpin. "You've grown so much stronger since we last spoke properly," Vincent said, his pale eyes scanning her tactical gear and weapons. "Emma would be proud of the woman you've become. Emma would want justice for what you did to her. Emma wanted to destroy everything our family built over 6 generations. Fortunately, I raised you to be more pragmatic." Vincent's mercenaries emerged from concealment positions, forming a loose circle around the warehouse floor. Their weapons remained lowered but ready, creating an atmosphere of controlled menace. "Let the victims go," Leia said. "This is between us." "Everything is between us, granddaughter. Every choice you've made, every relationship you've formed, every moment of your entire life has been shaped by my guidance. Your manipulation. My love." Vincent's voice carried genuine warmth that somehow made his words more disturbing than outright threats. "Do you remember the bedtime stories I used to tell you? Adventures of brave ship captains exploring dangerous waters." Despite everything she knew about his crimes, Leia felt childhood memories stirring. Vincent sitting beside her hospital bed when she had pneumonia at age 6, teaching her to identify different types of sailing vessels from picture books. The pride in his voice when she memorized maritime navigation basics. "Those were lies," she said, fighting against nostalgia's pull. "Those were preparation. I was teaching you to think like a haze, to understand that survival sometimes requires difficult choices." "Like murdering your own family?" Vincent descended the final steps, moving closer with each word. "Like protecting family legacy from those too weak to carry it forward. Your parents lacked vision. Emma lacked pragmatism. But you have the perfect balance of intelligence and ruthlessness." Behind the shipping containers, muffled sounds indicated Enzo had begun freeing the trafficking victims. Vincent's head tilted slightly, acknowledging the rescue operation without apparent concern. "Even now you're thinking tactically," Vincent observed. "Keeping me distracted while your allies work. Such admirable coldness. I learned from watching you." "Yes, you did. Which is why you understand that 27 innocent lives hang in the balance of this conversation." Vincent pressed a button on a small device clipped to his lapel. Across the warehouse, 3 shipping containers sealed shut with metallic clicks. Emergency lighting inside each container began flashing red. "Timed oxygen release," Vincent explained calmly. "Approximately 12 minutes of breathable air remaining. Unless, of course, you'd prefer to negotiate their immediate release. What do you want?" "Join me. Willingly. Embrace your birthright as my heir and successor." Leia stared at the man who'd shaped her entire existence through murder and manipulation. Part of her, the part still influenced by childhood conditioning, could imagine accepting his offer. Stepping into his world of absolute power and moral flexibility. "I'd rather die first. That can be arranged." Vincent's grandfatherly mask finally slipped, revealing the predator beneath. "But first, you'll watch everyone you care about suffocate slowly." Gunfire erupted from the warehouse's eastern section. Enzo's voice carried across the facility. Container locks are electronic. Need to cut the power. Marcus appeared on the upper catwalks, moving toward the facility's main electrical panel. But Vincent's mercenaries had anticipated this strategy. Automatic weapons fire drove Marcus back into cover as sparks flew from damaged power cables. Time grows short, Vincent said, checking his watch. 9 minutes until the first victims lose consciousness. Perhaps you'd like to reconsider my generous offer? Sarah's voice crackled through Leia's radio earpiece. I'm in Vincent's office. Found the manual override for the containers, but it requires biometric authorization. Whose authorization? Leia asked. Yours. Fingerprint scanner keyed to Hayes' family DNA. Vincent smiled with paternal pride. Even in rebellion, you serve family interests. The override system was designed specifically for this moment, when you'd finally understand that cooperation is the only path to salvation. Or I could just kill you and take your fingerprints. The scanner requires a living pulse, granddaughter. Dead men can't authorize mercy. 8 minutes. 7. The container's emergency lights pulsed faster as oxygen levels dropped. Through the warehouse's speakers, Leia could hear muffled voices, victims pleading for air, for rescue, for the mercy only she could provide. Choose, Vincent said simply. Join me and they live. Refuse and carry their deaths as your first lesson in Hayes family pragmatism. Leia holstered her weapon and walked toward Vincent with steady steps. His eyes lit with triumph as she extended her hand toward him. I choose family, she said quietly. But instead of shaking his hand, she grabbed his wrist and pressed his thumb against the biometric scanner on his lapel device. The container's locks disengaged with synchronized clicks, followed by the rush of fresh oxygen flooding sealed spaces. You little bitch, Vincent snarled, his composure finally breaking completely. I learned that from you too. Vincent's mercenaries raised their weapons, but Marcus had used the distraction to reach the electrical panel. The warehouse plunged into darkness as he cut the main power lines, leaving only battery-powered emergency lighting. In the strobing red gloom, Leia and Vincent circled each other like predators. His apparent frailty disappeared as he moved with lethal grace, decades of violence evident in every calculated step. You could have ruled an empire, Vincent said, drawing a ceramic knife designed to avoid metal detectors. Instead, you've chosen to die for strangers. I've chosen to end a legacy of murder. Their fight was brutal and personal. Vincent used every psychological weapon in his arsenal: guilt about her parents' deaths, shame over Emma's murder, fear for Enzo's safety. But Leia had learned to channel emotion into focused violence. She disarmed him using techniques Enzo had taught her, then pressed the ceramic blade against his throat with steady hands. Any last words, grandfather? Yes, Vincent whispered, blood trickling from his lips. Check Emma's autopsy report. The one Sarah never showed you. What about it? She was 3 months pregnant when I killed her. My great-grandchild died with her. Leia's grip faltered for just a moment, long enough for Vincent to trigger a hidden explosive device. The warehouse floor erupted in flames and debris as structural supports collapsed around them. When the dust settled, Vincent's body lay motionless beneath a fallen steel beam. His eyes stared sightlessly at the warehouse ceiling, and his pulse had stopped. It's over, Sarah said, emerging from the wreckage with minor injuries. Vincent Hayes is dead. The FBI tactical team Sarah had contacted arrived within minutes, securing the scene and coordinating medical care for the rescued trafficking victims. 27 people walked free that night. Their nightmare finally ended. 6 months later, Leia stood in a sun-drenched chapel wearing Emma's engagement ring and a dress her sister would have loved. Enzo waited at the altar, handsome in his tailored tuxedo, flanked by Marcus as his best man. You may now kiss the bride, the minister announced. Their kiss tasted of hope and hard-won justice. Hayes Maritime had been converted into a legitimate rescue organization, its resources dedicated to finding and freeing trafficking victims worldwide. Vincent's empire of suffering had become a force for healing. The reception was held at the Maritime headquarters, transformed from a site of horror into a celebration of love conquering evil. Guests included FBI agents, former trafficking victims, and members of Leia's extended family who'd emerged from hiding after Vincent's death. But as the evening wound down, a hotel bellhop approached with an ornate gift box addressed to Mrs. Rossi. "This arrived for you, ma'am. No return address." Inside the box, Vincent's personal journal rested atop layers of black silk. The final entry was dated the day he died. "My network spans continents and generations. If these pages reach Leia, it means the Prometheus Protocol has activated. Family legacy continues through prepared successors. The Hayes bloodline will never truly die. VH." The journal contained names, locations, and operational details for trafficking networks across 12 countries. But more disturbing were the photographs tucked between pages, dozens of children bearing unmistakable Hayes family features. "There are more of us," Leia whispered, showing Enzo the images. Vincent had backup heirs. Cousins, second cousins, children he's been conditioning since birth. "We'll find them all," Enzo promised. "And we'll stop this for good." But as they prepared to leave their wedding reception, international police sirens wailed in the distance. A detective approached them on the hotel steps, his expression grim. "Mrs. Rossi?" "Detective Morrison, Interpol. We need to discuss your honeymoon destination." "Why?" "3 trafficking networks have been activated in the past hour, all using Hayes maritime shipping routes we thought were shut down. Someone's continuing Vincent's work." Behind the detective, a figure stepped out of a diplomatic sedan. The wedding photographer who'd been taking pictures all evening removed his mask, revealing Vincent's face, scarred but unmistakably alive. "Family reunions are so touching," Vincent said, his voice carrying the same grandfatherly warmth that had once comforted a grieving little girl. "Vincent's alive? Drop fire if you saw that coming, wide-eyed face if you're shook." Subscribe to Mystic Tale by Luna, because this family war is far from over.